go. Good morning. Matthew chapter 25. We are going to be looking at the judgment of the nations, aka the sheep and the goats. Great Keith Green song. You should go check that out. Starts in verse 31. It says, "When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them one from another, as a shepherd divides his sheep from the goats. And he will set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right hand, 'Come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food, and I was thirsty, and you gave me drink, and I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me.' Then the righteous will answer him, saying, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothe you?' Verse 39, 'Or when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you?' And the king will answer and say to them, 'Assuredly I say to you, inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me.' Then he will also say to those on the left hand, 'Depart from me, you cursed, into the everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you did not you did not take me in. Naked, you did not clothe me. Sick and in prison, you did not visit me.' Then they also will answer him, saying, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister to you?' Then he will answer them, saying, 'Surely I say to you, inasmuch as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me.' And these will go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into eternal life." That's a cheery way to start your morning. I'm going to drink coffee after that. Whew. So, the sheep and the goats. Well, the sheep are believers, and the goats are unbelievers. It might be a good reminder for us that back in Matthew 13, I'll have to look up the verse, in the parable of the tares, Jesus said, well, therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so it'll be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send out his angels. They will gather out of his kingdom all things that offend and those who practice lawlessness, and will cast them into the furnace of fire. There will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. And so this is a parallel to the parable of the tares in Matthew 13. And notice it does say, backing up to the actual parable, that was the explanation. The servants asked, "Do you want us to go and gather up all these tares?" And he said, "No, lest you gather up the tares, you also uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And at the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, first gather together the tares and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn." So this is speaking of the same event. That at the end, there'll be the gathering and the dividing. When does this all fit into our timeline? Well, that's a good question. There's two places it could fit. And I'm not going to die on the hill of which one it could be. And maybe there's a good reason why it's one and not the other. But when Jesus returns at his second coming, He will come back. And there will be those who are the believers left on the earth and the unbelievers left on the earth. And at this point, he does his dividing. But also, at the end of the age, at the very end of the age, at the end of the millennial kingdom, at the very, very end, there will be also a dividing where you will see the white throne judgment. And there's also the Bema seat judgment. And you'll see all the people gathered going one way to the white throne for which they will get their condemnation. They will have the final judgment upon them there at the white throne. And this is a place that will be exclusive to unbelievers, goats. And then there's the Bema seat judgment, a place where an evaluating of your service, and really this whole the giving to the sick and the thirsty and the poor and in prison, all of that, right? That is what will receive reward or a lack of reward, a loss of reward. And so that'll take place at the Bema seat. That's the word Bema is for judgment. And that's what we see in 2 Corinthians 5:10, for we must all stand before the judgment seat of Christ. That's the Bema seat. And it's not the white throne. They're entirely different judgments, and they shouldn't be confused. Rather than speculating on the specifics of the eschatology, the end time stuff, what about the practical? Well, we do see that the destination of the wicked is everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. Everlasting punishment, as it said in verse 46. Hell is just as eternal as heaven. It's the message of the Bible. And what you find is Jesus is examining what people were doing. And that's where you should probably just stop this and hop on YouTube and go look up Keith Green's Sheep and the Goats, right? I actually don't know if that's the name of the song, but it's a good one. And it really is. It's kind of a dark and it's kind of a cool storytelling song that he does. It's a great live recording. You should catch it. But he talks about at the end of it all, it's about what you did or did not do. And he's watching what we are doing. It defines us, what we do. It really shows us what's going on in our hearts, what we do. And when we're not doing what we ought to do, we shouldn't get all down on ourselves about our doing. We should examine ourselves and figure out what's wrong with our hearts. Why are our hearts not in it? Because when the heart is right, the actions will always follow. And it's something where we ask God to examine us. And why don't I want to continue serving in that ministry like I used to? Why don't I want to share the gospel? Why don't I feel like praying? And these are things that we do. We examine ourselves. And it's something that's not comfortable nor fun, but it's fruitful. Oftentimes we don't like the pruning. We don't like the chastisement. We don't like those things, but they all bear that peaceable fruit of righteousness when we go through these times of examining what we do. And so here the sheep, they were doing. They were what? Feeding the hungry, giving drink to the thirsty, taking in strangers, clothing the naked, helping the sick, visiting those in prison. I mean, that's the idea, is that they're out there just helping people and loving people. And you'll note in specific, it says in verse 40, you did it to one of the least of these, my brethren. And maybe I'll just close on that thought. Now, you could take my brethren two ways. More specifically, the Jews, literally his brethren, or in a more general sense, and maybe better, believers. Galatians chapter 6, verses 9 and 10. It says, "Let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart." Therefore, because we're going to reap, because there's going to be a reward, because this is the best investment policy that's out there. This beats mutual funds and it beats tax-free IRAs and everything. This is the best investment of your life, of your time, of your money, and of your breath. Therefore, as we have opportunity, friend, do you lack opportunity to serve? Well, if you feel like you're lacking opportunity, well, just come have a talk with me and I will show you many opportunities. As we have opportunity, let us do good to all. Right? Christians, we're supposed to be good to everyone. That's the message. There's not a group of people we're supposed to hate. There's not a group of people we're supposed to be mean to. We do good to all, but especially to those who are of the household of faith. While we're called to love all people and all the sick and all the naked and all the poor, Jesus, back in Matthew 25, he specifies, "My brethren, by this they shall know that you are my disciples, by your love for one another." That's the catch. Love, service, and family within the church of God is supposed to be the thing that shows the world God's love and God's power. We're commanded to serve one another, be with one another, help one another. I think I've got a good one in John 17. John chapter 17. Let's see here. I know it's in here. All flesh, glorify me, manifest name. Oh. And check this, it says, "I do not pray for these alone, but also for those who will believe in me through their word." Are you one of the people who ended up believing in Jesus because of the word that the apostles wrote down in the Bible? Well, that's you, may be one, as you, Father, and me, and I, and you, that they may also be one in us, that the world may believe that you sent me. Our love for one another lets the world know that we are his disciples. Our unity with one another is what lets the world know that God sent his son Jesus. And because we're going to reap, if we hang in there, well, therefore, we need to continue to serve and to love and to do for one another, especially those of the household of faith, specifically those, my brethren, as Jesus says. Be a sheep. Be a good sheep. Learn, grow, and serve one another. And you can't serve one another unless you're with one another. So that's something I want to encourage you about too, is you biblically need, in order to be obedient, you need to be fellowshipping with other Christians. And let's be honest, Sunday mornings isn't really about fellowship. It happens some. That's where we gather to learn and grow and corporately worship the Lord. But it's the night and through the week, that's where the fellowship's supposed to take place. That's something you have to choose to do, to be with your brothers and sisters so that you can love and serve your brothers and sisters. So think about that. Examine yourself. Figure out where your heart's at and ask God to just stir up his love within you, and then go do what seems natural. I'll close with the words of Augustine of Hippo. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and then go do whatever you want. If you do the first part, the second part will be perfect. So, God bless you guys. Have a great day. It's Thursday. Where are we at tomorrow? We'll be chapter 26 tomorrow, won't we? We're moving right in there. The Passover feast and the crucifixion. So, all right, guys, I will see you guys around.